Hey guys, tonight we're stepping straight into the streets of ancient Rome. Picture it. The dawn chorus isn't birdsong. It's the clatter of wagon wheels on stone, the sharp smell of smoke, and a neighbor yelling as he empties a chamber pot out the window. You're not a senator, not a gladiator, not a famous poet. You're just you, dropped into an insula, one of those tall ramshackle apartment blocks where most Romans lived. And you probably won't survive this day. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, I'd love to know, where are you listening from and what's the local time right now? Post it below because this channel has turned into a little map of sleepy history fans around the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake before dawn. Not because you want to, but because someone upstairs is stomping across their wooden floorboards, and the thin plaster ceiling above your head rattles with every step. The air is already thick, smoky from last night's oil lamps, and it clings to your clothes. The walls of your single-room home are cracked, the floor uneven. You have no kitchen of your own, no running water, no toilet. Welcome to the Roman majority experience. You shuffle down the dark, crooked staircase, careful where you place your feet. Insula staircases are notorious. Rickety, narrow, and sometimes collapsing entirely. Historians still argue whether landlords ever repaired them properly, or if tenants just accepted that breaking a leg was part of urban living. Either way, you don't want to be the unlucky one. Out on the street, the smell hits you first. Chamber pots have been emptied overnight and the gutters are full. You tug your tunic a little tighter and pick your way around puddles that are definitely not just water. Your neighbors do the same, muttering greetings, clutching baskets, heading for the public fountain. Running water exists here, sure, but not in your apartment. Aqueducts feed into giant stone fountains, and if you want to drink, cook, or wash, you haul it yourself. Of course, you also share this water with the rest of the block, and sometimes with stray dogs. Let's just say it's not pristine. Your stomach growls, but don't expect a home-cooked breakfast. Unless you're wealthy, you don't own a kitchen. The wooden walls of insulae were far too flammable to risk open flames inside. Fires spread so often that emperors eventually banned home cooking in the poorer districts. So instead, you shuffle over to the neighborhood baker. He's been up all night baking loaves in communal ovens. You hand over a coin for a round of coarse bread, and if you're lucky, you might dip it in watered-down wine. That's your morning fuel. Forget bacon and eggs, and speaking of fire, you can't really relax. Every Roman knows the city's constant enemy. One careless spark and the insula can go up in flames like tinder. Thousands have died this way, and the great fire itself will come later, but you already live with the fear. Every creak in the wood, every whiff of smoke makes you wonder, is it starting again? The streets are alive now. Merchants setting up stalls, children darting underfoot, beggars calling out for coins. You try to push through the crowd, but the carts and animals block your way. The city is always loud, always jostling. Forget the romantic marble statues you see in museums. Most of Rome smells of sweat, dung, and frying oil. At mid-morning, you make your way toward the Forum, partly to see what's happening, partly because it's where gossip flows fastest. People stand around listening to public readings, news posted on the Acta Diurna, Rome's version of a daily bulletin. You squint to read, catching rumors of political plots and gladiatorial games. Someone whispers that the emperor himself might appear. Another insists new taxes are coming. Nobody really knows the truth, but everybody has an opinion. Some things never change. Work is calling, though. Maybe you're a porter, hauling goods from ship to stall. Maybe you scrape by as a street vendor, selling figs until the basket is empty. Maybe you just wait for a day's labor at the baths or the amphitheater. Whatever the case, you earn little and it's never enough. The city thrives on your sweat, but you live one missed wage away from hunger. By afternoon, the heat presses down, turning stone walls into ovens. You stop at a Pompeii, a cheap tavern, for a bowl of lentil stew and maybe a splash of sour wine. The place is noisy, smoky, and a little dangerous. Brawls aren't uncommon, but you're too hungry to care. A stray dog noses around your table, hoping for scraps. Later, you head to the public latrine. Not exactly private, just a long stone bench with holes side by side with strangers. Beneath runs a channel of water, but the smell is memorable. And for cleaning, you all share a sponge on a stick dipped in vinegar between uses. Not the kind of detail a tourist brochure brags about, but historians confirm it's true. Quirky? Absolutely. Hygienic? You be the judge. Evening comes and you shuffle back through crowded alleys, wary of cut purses. Street lighting isn't much. Torches sputter, shadows creep, and danger lurks in the dark. A neighbor warns you of thieves targeting anyone carrying bread or coins. You keep your head down, the wealthy hire guards, but you just walk faster. Back in your insula, the day's grime clings to you. No private bath here. If you want a real soak, you'd have to pay at the public baths. Tonight, though, you just wipe down with a rag dipped in fountain water. You settle on your straw mattress, listening to the neighbors argue through thin walls. Someone's baby cries. Someone else snores. The whole block groans with life. As you close your eyes, you wonder, will tomorrow bring more bread or less? Will your rent rise again? Will the ceiling hold another night? You live in the beating heart of an empire, but comfort is for the few. For you, survival itself is the daily triumph. The night is barely over when the city shudders awake again, and this time your path takes you toward the looming shadow of power itself. You've lived the ordinary Roman grind, but now the focus shifts upward, toward one man who shapes your life without ever knowing your name. His story is wild, dramatic, and more than a little unhinged. His name? Nero. You hear his name whispered in the forum. A neighbor mutters it in the bakery queue. Someone at the Pompeii swears the emperor is spending more on his palace fountains than on grain for the people. And as you go about your work, you can't escape the way this man's moods ripple through your world. Nero didn't begin as the monster the gossip suggests. He was once a young boy born Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, not exactly destined for greatness. But his mother, Agrippina, was ambitious in a way that makes modern reality show contestants look tame. She maneuvered her way into the imperial family, even marrying her own uncle, Emperor Claudius, just to put Nero in line for the throne. You don't get to pick your parents, but if you had, Agrippina wouldn't have been a restful choice. When Nero ascended at age 16, people thought he might be a breath of fresh air. Imagine a teenager running the empire. What could go wrong? Well, pretty quickly, everything. His mother wanted control. His tutors wanted influence. The Senate wanted obedience. And Nero wanted to sing, act, and race chariots. Yes, Rome's most powerful man dreamed of being a theater star. Historians still argue whether his love for the arts was genuine passion or just egotism. Either way, it didn't exactly calm his critics. You hear stories of Nero's grand performances, forced audiences clapping for hours, people pretending to faint from joy. You imagine being trapped there, eyelids heavy, unable to leave until the emperor bowed. Honestly, it's a bit like being stuck at your cousin's 5-hour slideshow. Except if you leave early, you risk execution. But the whispers grow darker. Agrippina, that formidable mother, soon found herself in her son's way. Rumor has it Nero arranged her murder. First he tried poison, then collapsing ceilings. Finally he settled on a boating accident, a boat built to fall apart at sea. When she somehow swam ashore and lived, soldiers finished the job. The details blur in the haze of time, but the fact remains. Agrippina, the woman who clawed Nero to power, died because he decided she'd done her part. For you, an ordinary Roman, Nero's whims translate into daily uncertainty. Grain shipments get diverted to fund palaces. Taxes rise. Officials compete to please him, and their schemes filter down as new regulations, new demands. The empire feels less steady with every decree. And then, one hot July night in 64 CE, it happens. The fire, you don't see the start, but you hear the crackling, the shouts. The air thickens with smoke, choking you awake in your insula. You stumble outside, flames licking the rooftops. People scream, push, drag children through narrow alleys. Heat sears your skin even from a distance. Fire leaps building to building, consuming wood, cloth, and straw in minutes. Rome burns. Some say Nero watched from a tower, playing his lyre, singing of Troy's destruction. Others insist he rushed back to organize relief. Historians still argue whether Nero started the blaze himself, or simply failed to stop it. You don't care about the debate. You're running for your life, clutching bread and little else. The city you know is collapsing around you. For days the flames rage. Insula after insula crumbles, temples crack, entire neighborhoods vanish in smoke and ash. Thousands die. Countless more are left homeless. You find yourself sleeping on the ground near the Tiber, coughing up soot, praying the fire won't turn again. When at last the embers cool, the city is a ruin. Charred walls, rubble, a stench that clings to your clothes. You should be mourning, but Nero has other plans. He seizes vast swaths of land cleared by the fire and announces a vision. The Domus Aurea, the Golden House, his palatial estate stretching across what was once a crowded neighborhood. Gold-leafed ceilings, artificial lakes, rotating dining rooms. You can almost laugh. Your apartment is ash, and Nero builds a palace where the streets once bustled with ordinary lives. Blame must fall somewhere, of course. And who better than the Christians, that small and unpopular sect? Rumors spread that Nero scapegoats them, accusing them of arson. Executions follow. Grisly, theatrical, meant to distract from whispers about his own role. You hear it whispered in the market. It wasn't them. But nobody dares say it too loudly. Your life, once precarious, now feels like a thread dangling over fire. You scavenge for food, rebuild walls with scraps, and try to pretend stability is possible. Meanwhile, Nero struts through Rome in jeweled robes, declaiming verses, acting on stages, demanding applause. He fancies himself an artist while the people around him sift through rubble. Years later, his paranoia spirals further. He turns on senators, nobles, even his closest allies. More executions, more fear. By the time he finally faces rebellion and flees the city, Rome is weary, scarred, and ready for change. You, an ordinary Roman, have survived fire, famine, and the whims of a man who thought himself a god on stage. But in your bones, you know the truth. Emperors come and go, but the ordinary people bear the weight. And you've carried enough already for one lifetime. The city is quieter now, but only on the surface. Beneath your sandaled feet lie layers of forgotten lives, and the stones themselves hold secrets. You leave the charred neighborhoods and, in your mind, wander south toward a place frozen in time, a city that shows Rome in ways even Rome cannot. Pompeii. Imagine stepping onto its streets in the final hours before disaster. The sun shines as always, but a shadow looms over the horizon. Vesuvius. You hear vendors crying out prices, smell the fish sauce that Romans adored, see painted signs still clinging to walls. Everyday life thrums, oblivious to what is about to come. Then the ground shudders. Ash begins to fall, at first like snow, then in choking waves. People scramble, clutching children, dragging carts, some sheltering indoors. Hours stretch into terror. Roofs collapse. Gas sears lungs. When morning breaks, Pompeii is gone, sealed beneath pumice and ash. Centuries pass before it's uncovered again. And when it is, the city feels eerily intact. Bodies curled in final poses. Loaves of bread carbonized in ovens. Graffiti scrawled on tavern walls. One scribble reads, "Gaius loves to drink wine," a simple note that makes you smile through the tragedy. Historians still argue whether the people who stayed thought it was just another tremor. One more shrug from the volcano they had learned to ignore. As you imagine walking Pompeii's streets today, you notice details overlooked in glossy textbooks, phallic symbols carved into stone for good luck, a dog mosaic warning cave canem, beware of the dog. Even fast food stalls with counters and holes for pots, where hot meals were served to workers too poor for kitchens. You realize their lives were messy, ordinary, even funny at times. Not so different from yours. Archaeologists keep finding oddities here. One house with rooms painted floor to ceiling in crimson, another with a garden fountain shaped like a sea monster, another with skeletons huddled in a cellar. Scholars debate endlessly. Was this family wealthy or simply imitating wealth? Was this wall painting sacred or just decorative? The city answers some questions while whispering countless more. You pause at a villa doorway, staring at the luxurious atrium with its marble floor, rainwater pool, and gleaming statues. This is where the contrast strikes hardest, because while you've trudged through cramped insulae, choking smoke and shared sponges on sticks, here the wealthy lived as if touched by the gods. Step inside a senator's home. Slaves glide past with trays of figs and honey cakes. The walls glitter with frescoes of myths. Hercules wrestling lions, Venus rising from the sea. Perfume lingers in the air. You recline, Roman style, on couches at the banquet. You don't use forks, just fingers and spoons, tossing bones onto the floor for dogs or servants to clear. Wine flows diluted with water, spiced with herbs. Someone cracks a joke about senators snoring in meetings. Laughter echoes under painted ceilings. Beyond feasting, the elite enjoy rituals meant to showcase control. They sponsor gladiator games, their names carved into stone for all to admire. They attend baths daily, gossiping in steam rooms while slaves oil their skin. Their children learn Greek philosophy while yours scramble for bread crusts. The gap yawns wide and you feel it. Yet even the rich couldn't buy immortality. Some of those villas in Pompeii now hold the same plaster casts as the streets, bodies frozen mid-breath. The ash cared nothing for wealth. As night falls in your Roman journey, you return to the city center where columns rise against a darkening sky. You've walked through filth and splendor, through gossip and fire, through mystery and memory. You've seen how ordinary Romans bore the weight of empire, how emperors played with lives like toys, how archaeologists pieced together clues, and how the elite wrapped themselves in luxury. And as you breathe in the final cool air of the day, you realize you've lasted longer than you thought. Now it's time to let the story settle, to soften into rest. The noise of the forum fades, the clamor of merchants dims and the smoky air drifts away. The marble floors of villas, the cracked stone of insulae, the charred ruins of Pompeii, all blur together into one long exhale. The fire is out. The streets are empty. The city sleeps, and so should you. Let your body sink deeper into stillness. The worries of emperors, the clatter of carts, the fear of collapsing ceilings, they no longer matter. You are safe, resting far from the chaos of Rome. The aqueduct's gentle trickle becomes a lullaby. The warm flicker of lamplight melts into calm darkness. Imagine the Tiber flowing slowly, carrying away the sounds of the day. Imagine stars pricking the Roman night sky, untroubled by smoke, steady and eternal. Imagine the hush that follows after centuries of noise, a silence deep enough to cradle you. You have walked the streets, you have felt the ash, you have seen marble and mud alike. And now you leave it behind. Let your breathing soften, let your thoughts drift. Let sleep wrap around you like a cloak. Good night, traveler.
Rome will wait. You don't need to survive another day.
Not tonight.